Hello and welcome back to Aggie Knits. Hello, thank you so much for joining me. I'm very happy to have you. My name is Devin and I am the host of this Aggie Knits podcast where I just talk all things knitting. I am a knitwear designer and knitter based in Tennessee. And yeah, here we're just going to talk knitting, patterns, yarn, and what have you. So today for this episode, I have my February makes. I have some whips, I have some FOs, and I have some yarn purchases, as well as a couple other little announcements here and there, sprinkled in, peppered, if you may. And yeah, let's get into it. I hope you guys have had a wonderful February. It's been an interesting year so far. Definitely a lot going on. And I think that we're all kind of just looking for a little steady boat in the water at the moment. And I hope that you have been able to find that boat. For me, it has been my amazing family and my knitting and my hobbies and all those different things that I can just pour into in my life. In the past month, my family has just been looking into buying a house, which very quickly changed into not buying a house because interest rates are a joke. So there's just there's a lot going on in the world, and it can be hard to take yourself out of the whole entire big picture and just focus in on that little part that you want to have that joy in. So that's what I'm doing now, taking myself out of that big picture of all the many different things that could be going on in my life and being chaotic. I'm just focusing in on what is making me happy, what is bringing me peace and joy right now. And hopefully I can fill that peace and joy bucket with a bunch of other different things as we go along this year. Anywho, I'm excited to talk about these different projects that I have this month. I have a test knit. I have a reveal of the secret test knit that I did in January, January and the beginning of February. And I have a bunch of stuff to talk about with yarn today, which is not always the case, but I'm glad it is this time. So let's kick it off with my first whip. This project is the Red Sunrise sweater from Drops. And I think it's very pretty. I don't know, it's not really showing up all the way in the camera, but I'm using the Noro Silk Garden Sock Solo. And just look at that pretty little, yeah, see, that's why I chose it. I want to zoom in on that real quick because I like that. This yarn, okay, let's talk about the pattern first. This is a free pattern, Red Sunrise from Drop Studio. And when I had first started knitting, I was really intrigued by Drops patterns because they're free. But when I first started to try them, I was so overwhelmed. They are, in my opinion, not the easiest read and are definitely just matter of fact. Do this, do this, do this, do this. But sometimes it just says what to do instead of do this. So it's a little, it's intimidating. However, this pattern was pretty easy for me to do. Now, I don't know if that is because I have been knitting now for much longer than when I had first looked at them, or if it's because this is just a simpler pattern, but this is pretty nice. It is a top-down raglan in the round. It has this beautiful little raglan pattern on the increase section that is made up with just a mix of knits and purls. So very simple, very nice. The original sweater is done in like a really bright red and it's beautiful. And I just don't really wear bright colors. So I was thinking if I'm not going to do a bright color for this sweater, I may as well do an interesting yarn. And I looked in my stash and I had this Noro yarn. And like I said, this is the Silk Garden Sock Solo. This is in the shade Tokyo. And I had this from my local yarn store. It was on a really good sale. I think I got 4 of them for like $40 or something, but it was nice. So I just had this sitting in there for a while and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And I am not the type of person who likes to have yarn sitting around for a while. If I buy it, I want to use it. I don't like letting my money just sit in places. So it just happened to be the perfect timing to check my stash and see what was going on in there. This yarn is very interesting. I hadn't realized it when I had first purchased it, but it's a very thick and thin yarn. Like there are some places on here, let me show you. Just right here, you can even see that blue section right there. It is much thicker than some of the other yarn. You can even see the difference as I hold it open, as I spread it more in the light. Just lots of really thick and thin places. I think it probably, in my opinion, varies from a light sport to a worsted, just within a few yards. So definitely not for you if you like a real smooth, superwash merino type yarn. But I enjoyed this. I was nervous when I was first knitting it up because I think I was using size 6 needles, and there were some parts that looked very just sparsely gathered because the needle was large in comparison to the size of the yarn in those portions. But as it just continued to work up, it really blended so beautifully. And I think it's probably one of my more seamless looking stockinettes, which is strange because it is definitely thick and thin, but I think it just looks really nice. I'm happy with how it has this sort of heathered tweedy look and everything. It's really beautiful. It surprised me. And oh, the one thing that I did not enjoy is that there were pieces of just like vegetation. There was a lot of twiggy stuff in the mix, and that's fine, but I found myself picking it out every single time I came across it. So no biggie. I mean, for the price that I paid for it, I don't care to do a little extra work in that realm, but I like it overall. This yarn, I don't know if I would use it again, but I am happy that I used it at least this time. And this sweater pattern overall, I mean, of course, I still need to do one of the sleeves, but the pattern was easy from the beginning to the end. And honestly, the raglan part did drag on quite a little bit, but it really wasn't terrible. So if you're looking for a nice raglan to do that has some cute raglan detailing, this is the one. Oh, also, this is my first sweater that has a split hem, which that was pretty fun to do. I'll do a try on once I actually finish it, but I think I'll probably put a couple pictures in, like right here. I'll have some pictures of when it was in the process of being made, and I think I have a new mannequin, so I just have it set up on there sometimes. I'll get that put in. And on to the next. Moving on to my second whip, this is the Montmarte sweater, and it is a little kid's knit from Fabel Knitwear. I am test knitting for her right now. This is my third time test knitting for Helene, and she's wonderful. I love her patterns. I think they always look so cute. And as a mom of a boy, it is pretty difficult to find those patterns that I'm just like so drawn to because I see the ones for the little girls and they got the poofy sleeves and they got the frilly little hems and everything. But Fable Knitwear's patterns are inspired by the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and it just has such a classic look to it. So, right now, I just finished the body this morning and I started up on the collar. There's some things that I love about this sweater and then other things that I'm not the craziest about. And I think that that really is just something that I could very easily fix based on my own preferences. The pattern is lovely. It's my preferences that are, kind of checking some of these boxes here. So for this sweater, I am using Knitting for Olive Merino, and this is one of my yarn purchases this month. I got these two shades. This is Ice Blue and Blue Tit. And when I first purchased these, I was a little nervous because the Ice Blue is very obviously cold, and the Blue Tit is, I think, neutral warm. Maybe I'm blind. I don't know. But I wasn't sure how they would work together. But now that I see them, striped up next to each other, I just think it is so cute for a little boy. I think he's going to look so precious in it. And this is actually, oh, I didn't even know I had this here, but this is another test knit that I did for Helene, and this is also for my son, Lewis. And yeah, see what I mean? She has the cutest little things, these kid knits. I love them. So far, I think I've spent maybe 2.5 or 3 days working on this sweater, and it's just flying by. I'm really enjoying the knit, and I'm excited to finish that one, get it checked off the list. So this is my third time using Knitting for Olive Merino in a project, but it's my first time using a larger needle size in order to do so. Typically, I would use a US size 2 or even maybe a US size 1 when working with them, but for this one, I'm using a US size 4. And I was a little nervous when I was getting to it in the beginning because I thought, stripes would make any extra holes obvious, but it's actually the opposite. I think it distracts from the slightly larger stitch. Uh, I just think it looks really good. A pretty common problem that I have with knitting for olive yarns, actually, it's been every time I've used them, is that the yarn is very splitty. I've noticed that far less when using the US size 4 this time. And when I say split, I mean that for the heavy merino, the cotton merino, and not the mohair, because you can't really split mohair, right? I mean, at least I haven't, but for all of them. So, very pleasantly surprised with how this one is knitting up. And I think that's all I have to say about that one. I'm excited to see it on him. It is a 1 to 2 size, so it'll fit him in like 8 months, but I'm excited to get that done. So that is all for the Junior Montmarte sweater. This next one is my first finished object of February, and these are the A1 socks by Super Stepanka, as she goes by on Instagram. I'm trying to get my face out of there. Just look at the socks. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to hide behind the socks. It's not really working, but there. Oh, perfect. Okay, so these are the socks. I think they are darling. I think they're really cute. I just looked up athletic socks on Google, and I saw this cute design with having the extra stripe there and here. I just figured I'll put it into a sock. Now, for this pattern, I used the Lolo Did It yarns. I think it's classic sock, and it is a yarn that I got in a skein exchange or skein swap at my local yarn store for Christmas. I'm very excited to have made a new pair of socks. I purchased US1 size needles for this because every other time I've made a sock, it hasn't been exactly right. Something about it just doesn't seem fully socky. I don't know. It might seem like it has too large a gauge, and I knit pretty tight, I think. So I don't know what it is about that. It seems like the overall fit is a little too big. And I've tried decreasing the overall stitch count, but I mean, there's only so many times you can make a pair of socks and fail, and then want to keep making more socks for it to work. But here, I have some other socks that I've made in the past. And this pair of socks, this is the Petty Harbor sock. I used Juniper Moon Harriet Fine for this. And even this one, the only way that I can get it to fit how I want it to is by putting it in the washer and dryer, which probably shouldn't do because it's alpaca, but it's the only way I can get it to be as socky as I want. I am sorry about socky. I can't think of another word. And I guess it really is just socky. That's all it is. This other pair I made, this is the Vanilla Sock by the Crazy Sock Lady, and I used Bad Sheep yarn for this one. This one fits much nicer. It's a lot tighter, it's a lot firmer. However, when I first knit this one, I had just started knitting, and look at that. See how you can see the row straight down? I only knew how to knit through the back loop at the time, so it's a little rough there, and the reason why I don't wear them as much is because of those lines going down. You get a lot of that laddering in between the stitches. So I think I might redo these eventually, but I don't know, maybe there was just something about the stitch count because even these ones are a little bit big, and I really don't have small feet. I have size 7 feet, so it's not like I'm walking around with kid socks and kid shoes. No, it's pretty normal. I don't know. If you guys have any tips and tricks, just leave them below, please, because I really want to love knit socks because they're so pretty. Like, look at these. They're so cute. They're a little big, but they're so cute. Something that I will say about the Lolo Did It classic sock yarn, though, is that I have never had a reinforced heel feel so tough and soft at the same time. I'm very excited to see how this wears because I decided to match up the reinforced heel with a reinforced toe. I want to see what that does to it because right now the fit of them is probably, or just the way that they line up on my foot is just perfect compared to any of my other socks. The other ones kind of turn like this. Here, it's like the seam ends up going in the middle of my foot. I don't know why, but these ones are pretty perfect in that area. So once again, these are the A1 socks by Super Stepanka, and this is actually a free pattern on Ravelry, which I always love. So yeah, free pattern, give it up for that, and that is that with this FO. My next FO is the Back to Boston sweater, which I'm wearing right now. This is another drops pattern, so another freebie, and this is a top-down raglan in the round. It is a DK weight sweater knit up on, what size? Size 6 needles, so quick knit in my opinion. This sweater is the first full sweater that I've done that is 100% superwash merino. And I kind of have a little bit of a vendetta against superwash merino. I feel like it just stretches in ways I don't want it to. But since doing this sweater, my mind may be changed, and I think that I was in the wrong before. I think I was just doing it all wrong, and that's probably why it wasn't working for me. But this sweater is also the first time that I have used a variegated yarn for a sweater. This one, where can I reach it? This one right here, I used a tonal for, but that's pretty much as out there as I've gone for sweater knitting. So I was very excited for this one. It was, I think it took me like a week and a half to do the entire body. And then it took me one day each for each arm to do, for each sleeve. But I did end up doing that like a week later. So technically it took like 2.5 weeks, but by the amount of knitting that I did, it took less than 2. It's a very quick knit. And for this sweater, look at this yarn. Isn't this like some of the most stunning yarn you've ever seen? I saw this when I was on eBay, and I had to buy it immediately. This is Devil's Food by Little Wolf Knits in the 420 base. It is 274 yards, 100 grams, 100% superwash merino, 8 ply. So kind of like the smoothest yarn that you can get, which is not my typical go-to for a sweater, as you can probably tell with the Noro one that I just did. But this was a wonderful first experience using a variegated yarn. So for this one, I actually alternated skeins every 2 rows for the body and then every 3 rows for the sleeves. There is no particular reason pertaining to the way the sweater looks that I chose to do 2 and 3. It was just convenience, and it was just so much easier to do every 3, but I think there is kind of a difference. You can see the color spot, or the, not pooling because it doesn't really pool, but the areas of the most saturation of color seem to be thicker in the sleeves. I don't mind it. I think that it looks pretty seamless overall. And it kind of reminds me of my favorite cocktail. I love a good mudslide, so I think it looks pretty reminiscent, which I enjoy. And this yarn, I was very impressed by it. It was so easy to work with. It blocked beautifully. Oh my gosh, it was real nice when I blocked it. So I think that it grew in the body by 1.5 inches, which was my goal, and then the sleeves grew by 1 inch, which was also my goal. I typically like bracelet length sleeves, so this is just perfect bracelet length, including a little elbow accommodation. So when I have my arms down, it's a little longer, but you guys know how it works. This is also my first sweater that I've actually done the correct length for both the body and the sleeves for something that I can just like consistently enjoy and not wish that they were longer. So it was worth it to take the extra, probably like 3 hours total to add those extra inches. Very happy about that. This yarn, again, beautiful. eBay. eBay is awesome for finding yarns. Oh my gosh, I was so impressed. This is the first time that I shopped on eBay for yarns, but it was just the perfect just place to find sweater quantities, single skeins. You had just massive destashes, everything like that. And it really inspired me to destash from my own stash, and I got rid of 16, yes, no, 18 skeins of yarn, not skeins, balls, 18 balls of yarn. And it was the equivalent of 3 sweater quantities and a couple loose ends here and there. I sold all of those on eBay, and then I actually ended up listing these 2 as well because I'm not going to use the rest of them. But I just think it's a good mentality to get into, to not have things sitting in places where you're just not going to use them or you don't enjoy looking at them. And while I do enjoy the look of them, it's not like I'm walking by all the time like, that's beautiful. I mean, it is beautiful, but it's just not something that brings me joy by having sit around and collect dust. I want someone else to enjoy it. So I put that up too. And the same thing with these spin cycle yarns that I bought. I have 4 spin cycle yarns, actually 4.5. They're beautiful, but I did the second sale and I was honestly really hoping that I would not get bulky yarns. And I did. I don't like bulky yarns. So I had them sitting for a long time. And I was just like, I'm just not going to use these, you know? So these are them. They're beautiful. Oh, I guess we're in the yarn portion of the episode. So anyhow, they're lovely. This one, it reminds me of like Aurora Borealis because you have that night sky with that beautiful, beautiful, just like fluorescent look. I think that's stunning. And this one here is kind of like a moody Valentine's, in my opinion. And this one is just screaming like Easter when you were 10 years old and you had those candy necklaces. That's what this is. And then this one, I don't know what this one reminds me of, but this one's my favorite. I think it's beautiful. I don't use bulky yarn. You know, that's it. That's all it is. And then I have this one, which is half a skein. And this one's pretty nice, but I don't really wear light colors. So I guess second sales really aren't for me because I've done 2 of them before and I haven't been happy with my results either time. Not just from Spin Cycle, it was another one too. And it's not their fault because I went into it buying blind. I can't buy blind again. But yeah, I have those on my eBay also. I did even more destashing and I have these on my eBay as well. So it was just, I thought it was pretty, I don't know what word to use. It felt very satisfying to get things out of the way, clear some room for some fresh air and for some fresh ideas and inspiration. Something that I'm doing right now is I'm going through all of my clothes, just getting rid of a lot of it, and I find that more often I know what to wear. Like I go into my closet, I look at what I have, and there isn't that dilemma of, oh my gosh, what do I wear today? Or I have nothing to wear, blah, blah, blah. Because the things that I've kept are things that I enjoy wearing and things that I just gravitate towards. And I wanted my yarn stash to be the same way. I didn't want to always look at it and be like, I need to buy more of this because I don't have anything to use. I have a lot of yarn. Not really a lot of yarn. I have 1 sweater quantity, 2 shirt quantities, and then like some loose ends. But in my opinion, I got enough yarn to last me for a little bit. So I don't want to be looking at that with just an emptier mindset. I want to see that and think about it, be grateful for it, and use it. So that's why I went through my stash quite a bit and got rid of a lot of stuff. Anywho, my yarn purchases, once again, just the Little Wolf Knits Devil's Food. And then I got 3 of these Knitting for Olive Pure Silk balls of yarn in the shade Dove Blue. This is my first time using the Pure Silk, and I'm very excited to use it. I got 3 of them because I thought that would probably just be a good quantity for a baggier t-shirt or just something like that. I saw this one pattern, it's called Tucker, and it has a long sleeved and a short sleeve option, but it's really cute. It has a front little frocket, and I think that it calls for either a sport or a DK weight, so I was gonna hold 2 together to make the t-shirt version of it. So I'm excited for that. And I've also heard things about how there is like a huge difference between holding this single and then holding it double, and people really love it when it's held double. So I'm excited to get into that and see what all the hype is about. And I had these other 2 also from Knitting for Olive that I already talked about before, just the ice blue and the blue tip merino. So let's see what else. Then I have this yarn from Madeline Tosh. This is the colorway Whiskey Barrel, and it is on the base pashmina. I love the pashmina base. I've used it before. I have the colorway Fatal Attraction. I'm looking at it. Let me grab it. So this one here is Fatal Attraction. It is a beautiful pink. I love it. And the reason why it's in a ball now or in a cake is because I had it in a hat, but I wasn't really crazy about it. And like I said before, I don't want to just look at something that has wasted yarn toward it. I'm going to repurpose it. So that's what I'm doing with that one. This yarn is, what is it? Where's the info? Okay, it is 75% superwash merino, 15% silk, and 10% cashmere. So it is very soft. It is super squishy. Like it just like, you know, it feels nice. I would love to eventually make a sweater out of this one day, but it is expensive. I think on their website it's like $42 or $40 or something. And it's a good amount of yarn. It's 360 yards. It's 113 grams and sport weight. But dang, like it's pricey. So I'd probably need to get 3 of them for a sweater quantity. And I just don't have a $1.30 lying around to toss out some extra yarn right now. The reason why I do have this yarn though is because when I had first purchased this Fatal Attraction one, I don't know what it was. Maybe they were like switching base manufacturers at the time, but there were just a lot of splits in the yarn, and it was something where it was very obviously just like tied back together. And I emailed them about it, and I was just like, this yarn was really expensive. Is this a normal thing with the yarn? Not that I was wanting a new one, but just so that I knew for the future if this was something that I should spend my money on again. And they were more than helpful. I spoke with Caitlin at the customer service email, and she was wonderful. She helped me just pretty much have a very easy process of just getting a new yarn. They gave this to me for free, and they said that I could pick any color that I wanted. So I got this one, which I think is really pretty. It has more blue than I thought it was going to, but I think it's just going to look lovely in something that I decide to make for my son. I think I'm going to do like a really squishy, just kind of jacket type sweater with, those little buttons that are like, what am I even trying to make? They kind of look like this. They're longer and like oval. I like that look. I think they're really cute. So I think I might do something like that. But yes, that is the Madeline Tosh Pashmina. And finally, just something else that I have been working on is my own pattern for Madeline. Well, it's for me, but the yarn was sponsored by Madeline Tosh. And this is going to become eventually, this is the back of the shirt, but it's going to become a nursing cover, kind of flowy, big oversized boxy t-shirt. It's going to have 2 side slits and buttons on both sides, but it's just going to be really easy for nursing. It is designed for nursing mothers, but it's going to work for anyone who wants a flowy, nice, cool looking t-shirt. And this yarn is the Pebble and Shibui Soft Cloud or Silk Cloud, but now it is Tosh Silk Cloud because they took over the manufacturing of that because I guess they were going out of business or something, and Mad Tosh felt it on their heart to help them keep this product alive because they had so many loving and adoring fans of it. At least I think that's what happened according to Reddit. But I mean, it is Reddit, so don't quote me on that, quote Reddit on that. But yeah, so I'm working on that right now, which has just been such a joy. It's been something that I have been a little intimidated by. I've written patterns before and I think they look nice, but I'm just intimidated by the idea of being sponsored by a yarn company to make a design because I feel like I need to impress them a lot, which I kind of do, but I need to try to avoid thinking about that added pressure there because it's also an honor. So I should think on the more grateful side of things there too. I find that one of the best remedies for insecurity and for dissatisfaction is gratitude. So just whenever I feel insecure about something or intimidated by the prospect of a large project, I am grateful for the opportunity that I have and for the abilities that I have that enable me to pursue the opportunity. So that just helps me out a lot there. And that's kind of all that I have going on right now. I don't think I have like a lot of yarn right now in there to use for a big next project. So I think I'm kind of just gravitating toward my spring knits now. I'm going to do some t-shirts. I'm going to do a cami that I found. I haven't done one before, so I'm pretty excited by it. And it will also be my first time using cotton yarn. So that's going to be fun. But yeah, just got kind of a blank slate in front of me now, which is refreshing. I haven't had that in a little bit with the past 2 projects that I've just done back to back. And I think that this is going to be a nice little break for me when I'm waiting for my next yarn to come in the mail to just kind of figure out what it is exactly that I want to be intentional about with my knitting in the upcoming months. I want to focus on intentionality. There are just some sweaters that I've made that I'm just not crazy about. And kind of doing the same thing with what I was talking about, the destashing. I'm destashing these sweaters. This one's going to my mom, and then this one is on my Depop. I'm clearing out. I'm making some room. This is the sweater number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. But just making some room for some new things to come into my life, and we'll see what happens, but it's going to be fun. I'm looking at the poly cardigan right now, which I think is gorgeous. It is like a patchwork, no, not patchwork. It is the star quilt motif that's just like done in a oh my gosh, a mosaic. That's what it is, in a mosaic knit on a cardigan. But when I was looking at that, I saw this gorgeous version in a shawl. I was like, I don't have a shawl that I've knit before. I think I'm going to do that. So I might work on that. Lots of possibilities. I don't know. What are you guys working on for the spring knits and March? Oh, and March is going to be my birthday too. So very excited for that. I'm turning 23 late March. But yeah, sorry. What are you guys working on? And what are you excited to just get on your needles within the coming weeks or coming months? Because I'm looking for some inspiration. I have a lot of things that I'm looking at right now, but nothing is really like, oh my gosh, Devin, you need to make that. So if you have any ideas, leave them down below. I'm very excited to see what you guys are working on, so that'll be fun. If you want, add me on Ravelry so I can see some of your projects. My name on there is Aggie K Knits, so same as here. But yeah, let's connect over that. I'd love to. I'd love to see you there. So that is all for today. Thank you so much again for joining me for yet another video. If you enjoyed this and you just want to continue watching these videos, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you have an idea for a video that you'd like to see, and have a blessed rest of your March.